So 2 weeks ago we did a video on the advantages of living in a small space.
And this week we're going to be doing the opposite, the drawbacks of living in a small space. So what's your number one drawback of living in a small space?
Well, there is little room to dance or kind of do exercises, there's not a lot of space.
No.
I mean, I keep hitting stuff here. No matter how practical and multifunctional you really make a tiny home, it is very rare that you can get a wide open space that you can basically jump around and, twirl and whatever, basically, what you would do in your living room or something like that. There are a few tiny houses that have managed beautifully to get that open space with multifunctional stuff, although usually they sacrifice some other tiny detail. But actually, if you were to do jumping or any sort kind of workout in let's say a van or a trailer, you may kind of shake it a bit too much, and if you're trying to go stealth, that's a bit of a giveaway.
Not gonna work.
What did you find most kind of annoying or a bit of a bleh in a tiny space?
Having people over, because let's say you're trying to throw a party or you just want to invite a few friends over. Having a very small space means, especially if the people who you're inviting over are not used to small spaces. Most people aren't, and inviting those over makes everything quite claustrophobic, and everyone's kind of standing a bit like sardines in a can. But you try and have a party of 20, 30 people.
We don't actually have parties, so why do you keep referring to parties?
Imagine having our wedding in a tiny house.
I think that would be the best wedding ever, please. Somebody get me a tiny house. You could, create a bigger space so you can entertain guests, but then you might, have sacrificed something else.
Yeah.
Or even if you want to have guests over, sometimes just the other material stuff that you need and other comforts, just kind of take over. I mean, we have very interesting ideas to do with the dining room table, for our upcoming van conversion, and oh my god, it's so cool. You'll see it eventually. Yay! Now, a lot of tiny homes do prefer to be off-grid, and there are many reasons for it, such as more environmentally friendly, or just more flexible with moving around. However, there's actually a huge kind of a bit of a nuisance with water, that if your home is portable, like in a tiny house trailer thing or a van, then your water tank will have a limited size because it needs to be able to move with you. So it has to be stored somewhere inside your house or underneath. So this little detail does limit the amount of water that you can carry with you, which also limits the time that you can go off grid before you have to go back into civilization to get more water. Although, if you invest into filtration systems, then you can, be off-grid for longer, because you can then sift off, water from streams and other natural sources, and then the water will be filtered, and then it will be good to drink and cook with.
There's so many other appliances in a normal household that actually uses water, and the one that uses the most is a washing machine. If you live in a small space and you have to, you want it to be off-grid, be able to just go away, chances are you're not going to have a washing machine. They use so much water, and not only that, they have to heat the water as well. They use so much power and water. I mean, of course, if your tiny off-grid little house has a connection to the mains, which means that you can pump water in, so you can do washing every now and then.
As long as you're connected to the mains, you can use a washing machine as normal. It's just when you have to go off-grid in your tiny home, that's when it becomes a problem, because then just all the water will be sucked away and you'll have no water.
And the other thing that uses a lot of water
are the showers. Pretty much all kind of big tiny houses and trailers have showers, because they usually have big enough water tanks. However, if you go smaller than that, if you have a super tiny home, like maybe in a van or any smaller than that, then the chances are the water tank will not be that big. So the shower then is also another luxury, like the washing machine is the next thing that will go along the line. So you can have a shower. We have really cool ideas for our shower in our van, because we do want to have one. But there are two things that you need to do. Most likely invest into an eco shower head, so it releases less water and uses less water per whatever
minute or however they calculate it.
And also you're most likely going to have to time your shower so you can preserve water.
Have like a little 2 or 3 minute timer on the wall that you just set before you go in the shower. Have your shower, 3 minutes, out.
4 minutes.
4 minutes.
4 minutes.
4 minutes. We had a lot of tests of this in New Zealand. We optimised the showering time needed to get clean.
I nailed it down to 2 minutes.
Now, this could be seen as a disadvantage, but tiny houses usually do have a lot more limited privacy. They have a lot less divisions and such inside the home to make it feel more open and spacious, which is kind of the point.
It's not for strangers, basically.
Yeah. I mean, everyone needs their alone time, and you can certainly get it in a tiny house. It just becomes a little more difficult, and you kind of have to work it out.
Yeah, you have to be a lot more considerate.
Yeah.
And if, you just get all cranky and crazy because, you're on each other's heads, then, try it out first before you commit. Now, coming on to from, the privacy aspect, tiny houses of most sorts make it kind of difficult to have a growing family. When you reach kind of the over 2, 3, 4 capacity in terms of children, I think a tiny house would start becoming more of a micro house. I mean, even at 2, you might be
pushing it.
Yeah. So that's depending on what you want out of life. That can be a disadvantage for you.
You can still have a small home with a large family. It's just not going to be probably as small like that you can fit it on a trailer, for example.
Yeah, you can still live tiny, but basically it needs to fit the number of occupants it has in it. And I'm sure, I'm not a parent, but I'm sure lots of parents will agree that it will be kind of useful for the children to have their own space. I personally suggest if you wish to live tiny and more kind of environmentally friendly, then yurts are actually a very good option because they actually provide quite a big space when put up. Light, and they're also portable, so they're actually a very good alternative.
So as with any new concepts that come in, there are usually grey legal areas until things, kind of move through the system and get sorted. Tiny houses are relatively new, but they're not that old that they have everything sorted out for them.
They're not illegal, but they're not strictly legal because they have not been considered.
Exactly.
They're not even in the law books.
No.
And,
if a law hasn't been written, does it exist?
And of course, since the law hasn't caught up yet to really know what to do with tiny house dwellers, it's actually quite difficult to find the appropriate home insurance because it's not your travel trailer or it's not your basically temporary home. It's where you want to live. So home insurance companies actually have not. They have not updated their policies yet to actually encompass this type of home. So as a result of that, actually a lot of tiny homes have been registered as campers or just temporary living or something like that, which is obviously a bit inconvenient, and it can have such repercussions as that your belongings will not be fully insured if, let's say, your van was broken into or something like that. As we learn more and more about this, as we will and we must, we're going to be making specific videos on most of the topics we have discussed in this video and the previous video. If you would like to find out whether tiny living is for you, then click the link below to get your free copy of our new ebook, Is Tiny Living For You? Definitely subscribe for those. We are just so excited about what's coming.
Really excited.
So follow us on social media and like, subscribe. Anything you have found out that you don't like in a tiny space?
I don't know. Let us know down in the comments below. We'll see you on Saturday.